for it and you just catch up. Okay, so I have this file here. Really, I want to recreate this surface. I don't want to have to build on top of this, so I'm going to show you how to build off something that's already there. So it's going to be assuming that I already have this profile. So I'm going to take just the edge data. Right, it's a nice clean curve. And I'm going to go ahead and create form from that curve. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Oh, no. Mine crashed too. Okay, so in this family, this is kind of a half-process family. You can see it's pretty thick on what's happening here. And if I click on it, it's going to take a really long time to do anything with it. So what's happened is we brought in that mass, and this is more so for the widespan projects. And you can see here at the top my division spacing on this, right? So I want to take this down to a workable number. So I'll take the 180, and I'm going to take it down to like 12. And it's going to take it a minute to generate. So I always, when I'm working in dividing surfaces, I always work with the smaller numbers and then build it up to larger numbers, just because of the sheer complexity of computation that has to happen within that surface. So I'll take the other one down to 12. So really that UV grid is kind of like your division of surface. So you should end up with something like this. Now, what's interesting in this is this one's actually broken. This was, and so I can show you kind of what's happening here. So this rectangle family number 1, if I edit that type, right, there's really no properties in it. What it is it's an actual surface that's loaded in to Revit as a pattern family. So I need to define a new family. So right now, I have some other things that I can view this surface with. So if I go back and I have that surface selected at the top here, I should see a pattern, right? So I can look at the surface and the pattern. Oops. Or I can just look at the surface itself, right? So every one has a different representation. And then under that, there's a little arrow on that surface representation that allows me to look at some other pieces of that geometry. So I'll go in and I'll look at surface. I can look at nodal points and the original surface as well, right? So I can begin looking at what that surface is like. Now in the event, I want to get back to the original divided surface of this. So once I divide a surface in a mass family, it's really difficult to go back to the original. So if you're dividing it, you should really only divide it if you have to divide it. So I'll come in, and by clicking the type on the surface, it's going to load in the patterns that are available to me. So the first one that you'll be defaulted with is a no pattern, right? And that should get me back to just a nice, simple, clean division of that top surface. And that's really what we want for this. So I should have done that before class, but again, I didn't have time. So some other things with how we divide out this surface, right? There's going to be cases where I may want an angled division in this. So I can divide the surface based on reference lines. So if I go to my top view, and let's say I want to put a couple of angles into this. I'm going to create a reference plane. And I can't do it in the top view, so I actually have to open a level 1 floor plan. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to model in a reference plane. So it's RP. And I'm just going to draw a couple ones that are kind of weird and crazy on here. Right, maybe one that comes through on an angle this way. Okay, now if I try and divide those are called intersects. Welcome. Now if I go to my intersects list, and I look at that, I don't see the newly created reference planes. And that's more so because they're kind of just generic reference planes. I need to tell it that they are pieces I want to use. So I actually have to give them a name. So in the properties of each one of those, I need to just give it any name. So I'll do 1 as 1, 2 as 2, 3 as 3, 4 as 4. Now when I go to that surface and select it, and I check my intersects list, now I see reference plane 1, 2, and 3, and 4 that I've used prior. And if I click on those, it'll now divide out my surface on those reference planes. And you can see there that I have my division. Really, it's really kind of a one-off when I do that. It's only applicable to certain things. So in the case of rent pool house, this may be some way you want to think about it. There's a couple other times where you'd use it. But it's good to know that it's there, and it's another piece to use. The only problem with this is loading in. You can see how that cut that data. Like, I can't really still grab like anything from it. So you really have to be aware of how you're using that. Right. If I do just UV grids, then I can see the surface a little bit better. All right, so I'm going to undo that, and I'm going to say that I really don't want to be division on that. So let's